This video, I'm going to walk you through how to set up your Node.js environment using TypeScript. I'm going to show you how to set up your test environment and even write some tests for you, how to test your API, for example. And we're going to set up linters, we're going to set up Prettier, and everything you need to set up to have your Node environment ready to go for your next project. Maybe you want to set up a Node server or even create your NPM package, and this setup would work nicely with everything. So I have my terminal right here. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm going to first make a directory. I'm going to call it Node Setup, for example. And we're going to jump into it. And right here, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to do git init. Set up my git, so initialize my git project right here, and then I'm gonna do npm init, and I'm using the y flag to accept every default value. So here when I run, we can see it creates a package.json file, and he set up the defaults here for everything, and I'm pretty happy with it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and make a directory here where we're gonna put everything inside. So here, just like that, we have our project. So I'm gonna open this in WebStorm real quick, and voila, it's up. And you can see I have the source directory right here and the package.json file that we just created, and all set for the rest. So the first thing I need to make it to support TypeScript, we need to install a couple things. Here I'm going to install TypeScript itself. I'm going to use the D flag for development, TypeScript. And another thing is types for Node. Node doesn't have types, so we can just use the types here for Node, and we're going to go install that. Let's go ahead and do a couple things. The first thing we need to do is have our tsconfig file. So we can do that by doing npx, for example, or we can just do tsc init. So here you can see we create our tsconfig file with all the defaults and all the things comment out. Here I can use yes next. Normally lib I would turn on when I use when I know I'm using a couple things like JS DOM for, I know some things that I'm gonna require DOM to be tested in the backend. So I turn it on just so we can have to put those packages inside there. Another thing I like to turn on is the root out there as well. And for this one, I'm gonna put everything inside the build. Let's go a couple more things here. Also, I'm going to use strict. I like the default. So for yes modules here, interrupt to true. That's good. Another one is resolve JSON module, which I like. Let's see if I can find it here. So there's none of that. So I can just resolve it just. This is used for when you are you know you're gonna do some imports for JSON, which I normally do when I'm doing a Node server. Another one that I like to do is this. I'm just checking if there is there. So casing of file names. I like to make sure my file names are always good, always the same way. So another one is skip lib check, which I don't find here by default. So we're gonna do skip lib check. That just skip checking anything in Node modules. We don't care about what's going on there. We don't need to check types for other things. So from there, I think I have all the good default ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here. So I'm gonna create a new file. I'm gonna create something called index.js. Sorry. Accept this, and we're gonna do a server. So I'm gonna do import HTTPS. Oh, actually just HTTP. And then we're gonna create a server. So I'm gonna export this server actually. And to create a server with Node, I'm gonna do HTTP create server, and it takes a callback. Look here that I'm not using Express. We could do this with using Express. It would work the same way. So here I'm gonna write head. So I'm gonna send by default at 200 and content type. I'm gonna send the application JSON. That means we're gonna send the JSON file. So here's what we're gonna actually send. It always takes a string, so I'm gonna see JSON stringify, and here I'm gonna send data. It works. There you go. And now that we have a server, we can actually listen to this server on port. We're gonna go for port 3000, traditional here, and we're gonna just console log that we are running on this port going forward. So now, before we actually run this server, which we cannot do right now, we have to do couple scripts. And the first one I want to target is the build script. We're going to talk about a little bit here. And for build script, we're just going to run TSC because we have Typescript already installed. By running this, running this command, we should just work. So now here I can just say npm run build, which is the name of the script, and you can see ran all set, and then it create a build file directory in our root project. Here we can see there has the source and the index.js. We can see how our server looks like when we see what our target here. We say ES next. So this is how it looks in plain JavaScript. I think you use ES module here. Pretty good. So overall, mostly the same. So this confirms that our build actually works. And let's go for the start. So the start script, I'm just gonna do node source, and this would actually now work for our current setup. So if I just do npm start here, so start is a special command, a special script. You don't have to use the run. So here we can see the error, cannot find module, That's because I'm saying node, and node is not actually TypeScript. So this file is TypeScript, so it could not find anything. But we can, so the reason I created this is so this can only be run inside the build. And we can fix that. So we can say include, I want to include source, and I also want to include package.json. So now we can build this again. Actually, I'm going to delete this. We're actually going to fix that. So npm run build, and it builds again. Now we can see the build, and we can see they have the source and the package. So this means that now if I'm inside this build and I run npm start, it will just work. So if we go cd into the build and do npm start, it works. So it just we can see that. Let me just pull the Chrome here, so we can just come here and you can see it works. I'm using a JSON viewer, that's why it looks nice here. I'm using JSON viewer extension, so we see our server works. So what's the purpose of have the npm start? So this build is what you're gonna ship to your production. So if you want, maybe you're using AWS Elastic Beanstalk, for example. So what you're going to pass to Elastic Beanstalk is the content of this build, and you can tell it Elastic Beanstalk for when it starts to run npm start, and it will just work. So this command is made for production. We're going to create one for developer in a bit. So just know that. The same thing for netfly, anything you use to deploy your code. And same thing for npm package too. So you put some commands which are meant just for when the package is built, not for when it's developer. So let's tackle this problem of the developer mode here, which is probably what you is most interested on. So first on, I'm gonna install a couple things. One, NodeMon, which is gonna allow us to run our servers in watch mode. I'm going to use remraf because you saw me deleting the build full directory manually. I'm also going to use npm run all to allow us to run a lot of commands at once. And I'm also going to use tsnode, which is a TypeScript version of our nodes, which you can use to run files there much better. So while that run, so we can create a couple scripts. One first script I want to do is clean. And here we're gonna do remraf, the package that we just installed, and we can tell it delete the build directory. And then we can update the build here to say npm run clean, and then run this command. And so far so good. Now to run things locally, I like to use the local command. You can use dev. See many people use different things. So local here, and then I'm gonna use tsnode, the package that we just installed, to run our server. Yep. So if I just run node, and then I can tell the source. So you can see same thing as the start, but yeah, use tsnode to actually understand TypeScript. And then let's give this a try. So we can say npm run local. I like how it sounds, npm run local. Why is saying? Let me see this. Oh, I know. It's because I was inside this thing and not here. So if I npm run build, we can see that it cleaned, and now it produced things again. So we didn't see anything there. So after that npm run local, we can see it run. So we can just check here. We can see everything is working fine. But the problem with npm run local is that it doesn't detect change. So if I can just say it works and just remove the exclamation mark, for example, and go back to this, we can see it doesn't pick it up. So we can fix that by using the other package, creating a new script. I'm gonna say npm run local on watch mode. And here we're gonna use a different package called NodeMon. NodeMon, I'm gonna watch the source directory, and I'm gonna watch for any files extension of TS and JSON files. And then when there isn't a change, I'm gonna execute a command npm run local. So that means whenever there's a change, we're gonna run the local again. So now if I do npm run local watch, beautiful. And if I go back to the server, you can see there's nothing there. If I go back and change this to add exclamation mark, you can see as soon as I save, it rerun again, and we can go back to the server and refresh. You can see there. So this is for developer mode, and we can make sure that everything gets updated when we make a change. Okay, now that we know that everything that works, let's jump into tests. The test is very important. So setting up the tests is crucial as well. So I'm gonna do a couple installs. So npm I, we're gonna do also development as well. I'm gonna use super test, which is good for testing servers. and I'm going to install a couple things here. I'm going to first install the types for supertest, because supertest is before TypeScript time, I believe. And then we're going to install Jest. Node, by the time of this recording, Node already ships with this test runner, so you can use that as well. But I'm so used to this, I'm gonna keep using types Jest until I further test those things. I'm also going to do types for Jest, and finally we're going to use TS Jest, which is like TS Node but just for Jest. Is a TypeScript cousin, brother of Jest. So you can install all these packages, and while that's going, I'm gonna come here and create a file called jestconfig config.js. So here that we see config.js is outside of the source, which is it's not typed. So we're gonna do the old way here, module exports here. A couple things. We're gonna use a transform. This is what would tell Jest to handle the transformation. So we're gonna target, I'm just gonna copy paste from a place here that I have. So we're saying target any TypeScript file. It's any file that handles in TS. That's what it means. Any file that ends with TS, and use TS Jest to transform it. So when Jest runs, we first have to transform into JavaScript, then to actually run a test. And we're gonna, since this is Node, the test environment, test, I think that's what it is. Environment is Node. So we're gonna use Node, and test regex. This is what the file. So in Jest, you can use specs files or TS files, or you can use whatever you want actually. And I have a types regex here that I can copy. So you can tell it look at any file inside the source directory at any level, and use it. Check if it ends with test or spec, and then we have the JS or TS. So it means that we can test any, if it's just JS or TS files, as long as they end with test or spec.js or TS. That's all that it means. We can also tell it module resolution, module file extensions. So these are files that normally your Jest comes across when it pulls your stuff. So we know we're gonna do imports of TS. We're probably gonna do some import with JavaScript, and I know we're gonna use JSON. So when we do imports, so whenever it comes to that, we need to treat them as the module files. So those are be it. So maybe, yeah, CSS, you have other things that need to go there. So then we need to use the famous syntax of Jest, of router, and we're gonna tell it, hey, the roots is there. So you can have multiple roots of your test for Jest to look into. So in this case, we just have one. We just look into the source directory, and this is pretty much our Jest thing. And we can go ahead and create a script for it, and we're gonna call it test, and we're gonna say Jest. There are a couple command options for the Jest here. Maybe you want to run silent, you don't want to see the export, you just want to see the final result. Maybe you want to do coverage. I think coverage is you just have to say coverage. So this will create a coverage directory when it's done. Pretty straightforward here. So with Jest, now let's test our server. Let's see if Jest actually works, if I did a good job here. And I'm gonna do index.spec. I like to use spec rather than test, because there's some rare occasions that I just start with the spec before I actually jump into my coding. So super test, we're going to import that, and we're also going to import our server here, and I'm gonna describe the test. You're gonna be server. And here we're gonna create a request, a requester. So this is pretty much, it starts the server for us. So we're gonna do server here, and after everything, after all my tests are done, I can say, hey, when you're done here, server close. We're gonna pass it the word done, and the done is also come from here. And we're gonna say, when you're done, just complete, close the end the server. So the first thing, look at how easy it is. So I'm just gonna get, so we know that when I first query my server here, I get this JSON file here, right? So I'm just gonna copy, by the way. And I know we gotta get 200, we're gonna get a JSON, and we can definitely check all those things. Here we're gonna make it asynchronous, and I'm gonna do a response. We're gonna do request, get, and then we're gonna get the /. We're gonna await on this guy, and then we're gonna expect res status to be $200 and body and we're gonna go back here. We're gonna pick up this guy. We're gonna run a test. We can see passes, and we can try to make it fail. We can see now it failed. You see, should be it works, and like that. If I do npm run build now, we're gonna notice that yeah, it still runs fine. But then we're gonna check the build. We're gonna see that he included his tests, and I don't want him to include a test because that's not part of the build. So the same way we said include this directory and this file, we can exclude anything that is inside the source at any level that ends with spec.ts. So now when I do npm run build again, we can see now it doesn't include the spec file that we had. Okay, now we need a linter. So let's set it up. So I'm going to install a couple things. npm ID. We're going to use the Typescript ESLint parser. We're also going to install, I'm going to copy this. It's probably the same thing here. We're also going to do the ESLint plugin. And we're also going to install the ESLint itself. And I'm going to go for Prettier. And if I'm going to go for Prettier, we need the Prettier ESLint config. So ESLint config Prettier. I'm going to install all these things. And meanwhile, I'm going to come here. I'm going to create a file called ESLint rc. Oops. ESLint rc. Cool. So here I'm just gonna do a JSON. We're gonna say extends, and we see extend ESLint. This is pretty much standard at this point, recommended. And we have the plugin. This is a special ESLint syntax. We know we have to do the same thing but TypeScript. ESLint, I think you just slash recommended. TypeScript ESLint recommended. And then we also gonna extend Prettier. And from there we can set up our parsers. And we only have a single parser, which is the one we installed. So ESLint parser. And for plugins, we have the same thing, ESLint plugin for TypeScript. And yeah, we're gonna start from the root. Beautiful. Now we can set up a couple things here. I'm gonna do before the test. So I'm gonna do lint, which is ESLint. We're gonna tell it for source, go for source, and then we're gonna do format, which is for Prettier. We're gonna do npx Prettier. We're gonna write source, and then there's another one for check. We can do check, which is instead of write, we do check. So check just checks, it tells us what's wrong, and then it's asking me to do an npm install. Okay, so check only checks the things, and lint. So let's run these commands. Npm run lint. So nothing wrong there. Npm run format check. We can see that we have a couple problems here. We can actually do npm run format. We actually format everything. You will fix it. So now you see you fix everything. If we go back and do the check again, you see all things were good. But furthermore, I know for this, for WebStorm, we can use ESLint, and I'm gonna say automatically and run ESLint when I save, which is good. And if you have the Prettier plugin, you can also say, hey, use the Prettier, and you can do on save as well, on format code, on action. I'll leave that out, so I'm using the ESLint. So that's pretty good, because whenever you make a mistake, I don't know, it doesn't like something that you did here, and then it would automatically auto formats it for you. So all good, but we can improve the scripts here much more. So here I'm gonna do npm run all, and we're gonna run a couple things. We're gonna say first, when you're building, I want you to lint, and I want you to format it after, and I want you to clean, of course. But first I want to test first. So the test is optional, but I like to know that before I build something for production, and if the test is passing, so we can just run a test to make sure that we didn't introduce anything that will fail. And I think that's pretty much it for the build. And last but not least, I'm gonna create a git ignore, which is pretty standard. Just gonna do a couple defaults that I have saved. So this is for the IDE. I know for IntelliJ, and if you're using VS Code, I wanted to ignore this file as well, so we don't commit. And also we have tests. So I want to exclude coverage directory, and we have a couple dirs that I want to exclude as well. And one of them is node modules. Definitely don't want that to be committed. I definitely don't want build to be committed. And that's pretty much it. And we can then get git status. You can see that only the things that matter are to be committed. And right here. So we have the files, the directory, the files, and it doesn't include anything build and everything else. So that's pretty much it. That's your entire node setup. So the content of your source directory is up to you. It can be a server, it can be something you want to package for NPM, it can be whatever you want. But this entire setup will give you everything you need to go and then start your node with TypeScript in a safe way. So let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe to support the channel. You can also check this everything that I just walked you through in Medium. I have an article that I will go through every step. You can check that. I also you can follow me on dev.to. Here you can see the same article as well. So I try to publish on both, but I'm more active on Medium. So in general, I write my articles before I make the video, so you can catch the things much earlier in those blog platforms before YouTube. So thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Bye bye.